I'd like to take just a brief moment, first of all, to thank Reverend Jesse Jackson and the Rainbow Push Coalition for giving me the opportunity to serve. Because if you're walking around here doing anything on behalf of our people and on behalf of children with the Rainbow Push organization, you are serving, you are working. With that being said, Reverend Jackson is really excited, and so am I, about the Education Summit that he is hosting at Roosevelt University on May 17th from 8 o'clock a.m. to 4 o'clock p.m. And it's going to be hosted at Roosevelt University. And the purpose of this particular summit is for us to move beyond the microphone out into the fields and have some real conversation about the impact of education and the likelihood that the policies and the practices that are being implemented nationwide are increasing the likelihood that our students are successful. I'm going to let you in on a little bit, and which is we already have the agenda set for the day, and Reverend Jeanette has asked me to share it with you. In this particular summit, we're going to have a full day of, which actually will start with corporate folks. We want businessmen and businesswomen at the table to talk to us about the skills and the strategies our students should possess when they graduate from high school so that they are employable. We want to hear directly from corporate sponsors related to where are the gaps and what are the things that we need to see done as educators to ensure that our students are successful. From there, we'll move on to a panel discussion in the corporate breakfast where educators and policymakers will actually respond. Imagine that. Business folks are saying, we need you to graduate people who can do this, and then the educators will respond. With that being said, the middle of the day will be focused on K-12 education, and we'll focus on things like equity and funding, cultural responsiveness. We want to know the degree and the extent to which the curriculum actually includes materials that looks like us, that looks like the children that we're serving. And at the latter part of the day, we'll address higher ed education issues. And in light of the college cheating scandal, we will talk about that, and we'll talk about its impact on our students' ability to actually legitimately be accepted into higher education courses. Lastly, I want to make 4 points. I've talked to you about what we will do. I think it's important to tell you what we won't do. What we will not do is take a Band-Aid approach to addressing the aforementioned issues. Instead, we plan to take a more holistic approach by offering recommendations as to how we can empower our people. We do not plan to go wide and surface level. Instead, we plan to go narrow and very, very, very deep so that we may address the root causes of the problem and address them on up. With that being said, don't just take my word for it. We've actually created for our panel members a document that says, here's how we want you to respond. 1, we want you to clearly state what you identify as the problem from your area of expertise. 2, we want you to identify the potential causes, root causes of those problems. 3, we're asking our panelists to make recommendations for addressing the problems, and then we're not going to let them off the hook. 4, we're going to ask them to share instances in which they have seen their recommendations implemented and the outcome was successful for our children and our people. And lastly, we're going to close with a call to action. We want people to actually do something with what has been recommended and do something with what they've said. In closing, in the words of one of my Chinese proverbs, to know and not to act is really not to know. But even better than that, in the words of my mother, who was from Mobile, Alabama, who told me when I left her house yesterday, when you know better, do better.